Hey everyone, and welcome. Think about this for a second. You get a prescription from your doctor for a totally legitimate medical condition. You follow their instructions, but that very same prescription could be the reason you get fired. Well, for millions of Americans, that's not a hypothetical. It's the confusing reality they face every single day. We're talking about medical marijuana in the workplace, and it's one of the biggest legal gray zones out there. Today, we're going to clear the smoke and figure it all out.
So, what's the final word? Is it a valid, protected medical treatment, or is it straight-up grounds for termination? This one question creates this massive collision course, right? You've got an employee's right to health on one side and a company's duty to keep everyone safe on the other. It's a huge dilemma, and we're going to untangle every last thread of it.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start by digging into the core dilemma. Then, we'll tackle that messy tug-of-war between federal and state laws. We'll explore if there are any real protections for employees, look at the one huge exception for safety-sensitive jobs, and then, and this is key, we'll shift into solutions, how to build a modern policy, and exactly what to do when an accident happens.
Okay, let's dive right in with Section 1, the new workplace dilemma. You know, at its core, this is really a story about a collision. It's where modern medicine is crashing right into workplace policies that were written decades ago. And as more and more doctors prescribe medical marijuana, this conflict is flaring up in offices, on construction sites, and in warehouses all across the country.
First things first, let's just be super clear on what we're talking about. When we say medical marijuana, we are not talking about recreational use. Not at all. We're specifically talking about derivatives of the cannabis sativa plant that a doctor has prescribed to treat very specific medical conditions. Things like severe chronic pain, epilepsy, or the side effects of cancer treatments.
Now, to really get this, you gotta know about the two main players inside the plant. You've got THC, which is the famous one. It's the psychoactive part that creates the high. But then you have CBD, which is non-psychoactive. This is where a lot of the therapeutic, medicinal benefits come from, often without any impairing effects. This difference is absolutely crucial, because the line between medical treatment and potential impairment is exactly where all the workplace confusion comes from.
And this, my friends, is where things get really, really complicated. We're stepping right into a massive legal tug-of-war between the federal government and individual states. And honestly, this conflict is the source of almost all the headaches for both employers and employees.
So let's look at the federal side. Their position is crystal clear, and it hasn't budged. At the national level, marijuana is an illegal Schedule I substance. End of story. And to make it even stricter, you've got the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988. This law says that if your company has federal contracts, you must maintain a 100% drug-free workplace. It's not a suggestion, it's a requirement of doing business, which obviously creates a huge legal clash with states that have gone a different way.
And this chart just shows you how wild that clash is. There's no single American policy. It's this crazy patchwork quilt of different state laws. You've got some states where cannabis is still totally illegal, others that only allow very specific low THC or CBD products. Then you have a whole bunch with comprehensive medical programs. And finally, states where it's legal for all adults. Now imagine you're a company operating in 5 different states. It's a legal nightmare. What's perfectly legal for your employee in one state could get another employee fired instantly just one state over.
Okay, so that legal mess brings us to the next logical question. If the state laws are all over the place, maybe, just maybe, federal disability laws can offer some kind of protection for employees. It's a great question, but the answer, well, it's really, really tricky.
So the two big laws people usually look to are the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the FMLA, the Family and Medical Leave Act. Now, the ADA says employers have to provide reasonable accommodations for workers with disabilities, and the FMLA lets employees take medical leave when they need it. So on the surface, you'd think, hey, my condition is a disability, my doctor prescribed this, so I should be covered, right?
Well, here is the huge, massive catch. Because marijuana is still illegal under federal law, federal protections like the ADA and FMLA do not recognize its use as a legitimate medical treatment. This is the legal trapdoor that so many employees fall through. Your underlying medical condition, that might be protected, but the specific treatment your doctor recommended, it's not. It's a devastating catch-22 that puts people in an impossible spot.
And this leads us to a really, really important conversation we need to have. I mean, given that tens of millions of Americans are now using medical marijuana legally under their state's laws, should federal laws like the ADA be updated to protect them? Or should the federal government stance keep it unprotected? This is a huge debate, and I'm genuinely curious to hear your take on it. Let me know what you think down in the comments.
Okay, we've been swimming in a lot of gray areas. So now, let's pivot to a part of this that is way more black and white. In this whole debate about rights and accommodations, there's one area where the argument for public safety almost always slams the door shut. And that is the safety-sensitive exception.
And here it is, plain and simple. Even in the states that have the strongest possible protections for medical marijuana patients, those protections almost always vanish if the employee works in a safety-sensitive job. The potential risk to the public is just seen as too high to allow for any gray area. For these jobs, the conversation about accommodation pretty much ends.
So what kind of job are we talking about here? Well, these are roles that are often strictly defined by federal agencies, like the Department of Transportation, or DOT. We're talking about people whose impairment could lead to absolute disaster. Think DOT-regulated truckers, airline pilots, people operating heavy cranes, surgeons, police officers, firefighters. For these folks, the rules are, and they really have to be, incredibly strict.
Okay, so we've laid out the problems, we've untangled the legal knots, and we've highlighted that big exception. Now let's talk about moving forward. How can a smart, responsible company get from this place of total confusion to a place of real clarity for their entire team?
So one of the biggest scientific roadblocks to a fair policy is this. THC, the psychoactive compound, can stay detectable in your system for days, sometimes even weeks after use. This means a drug test can come back positive long after any feeling of impairment is gone. So an employee could use their legal prescription on a Saturday, be 100% sober and sharp for work on Thursday, but still get fired for that positive test. A policy that only looks at positive tests isn't really measuring impairment on the job, it's punishing people for legal off-duty conduct.
Building a policy that works in 2024 has to be smart and comprehensive. As you can see here, the biggest piece of the puzzle, at 40%, is just making sure you are compliant with all your local and state laws. But that's not enough. You also have to clearly define in writing which roles in your company are safety sensitive. You need to have a clear, formal process for how an employee can even ask for an accommodation. And finally, you've got to have rules that are crystal clear about the difference between being impaired on the clock, which is never okay, and legal off-duty use.
All right. Let's get to our final and maybe most important section, after an accident. This is the moment of truth. This is when all those policies you wrote get put to the ultimate test. And it's a time when every single second truly matters.
So I want you to picture the scene. It's chaotic. There's just been an accident at the workplace, maybe involving a forklift or a company truck. In that moment of crisis, what is the absolute number one most critical step that a manager needs to take? The answer to that question can make or break a company's legal standing and determines the safety and clarity for everyone involved.
For way too many companies, this is what happens. It's chaos. First, there's a panic trying to figure out if a drug test is even required under those complicated DOT rules. Then it's a mad scramble, making frantic calls, trying to find a testing clinic that's actually open, or a mobile collector who can come to the site. The employee then has to be driven off site, wasting precious time. And then, the worst part, you wait. Hours, sometimes even days, for the results to come back, leaving the company and the employee in this awful legal limbo.
And let me be absolutely clear about this. In a post-accident situation, every single tick of the clock introduces more risk. You risk falling out of compliance with those very strict DOT testing windows, you risk the integrity of the test itself, and you drag out the uncertainty for everyone. When the stakes are that high, the old, slow way of doing things is just not an option anymore.
This is where modern technology completely changes the game. The solution is to bring the testing process from some faraway clinic directly to the accident scene. On-site mobile testing completely eliminates travel time and delays. With patented app technology, you can get a collector to your location with unprecedented speed, ensuring that sample is collected well within that strict compliance window. You get real-time status reports and notifications, detailed tracking for total transparency. It's about streamlining the entire process to ensure DOT compliance when it matters most, replacing chaos and waiting with speed, documentation, and clarity.
So, as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. We've spent this time talking about the challenges we face today, but what about tomorrow? As our laws keep changing and medical science continues to advance, how do you think our very definition of a safe workplace is going to have to evolve over the next decade? It's a huge question that every single business leader and employee is going to have to face. If you found this breakdown valuable and it gave you some clarity,
please do me a favor and hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe to the Ready Collect channel for more deep dives into these critical workplace topics. If you were inspired with this video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Ready Collect. Feel free to share this video as well. Thank you.